Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera. We are from Group 20 and we will be presenting on corruption of former national leaders, case 1 MDB scandal. We have 6 members from various courses and ethnicity. Firstly, we have Danish Haziq from PE, Amar Fiki from ME, Nafal Fidaus from ME, Azrul Ikram from ME, Afi Aikal from ME, and lastly, Dinesh from CE. Next is about table of content. Our presentation will be conducted in the following order. Firstly, we will present about the introduction of the 1MDB scandal, and next, literature review, and then research methodology, finding and data analysis, and lastly, conclusion.
For the first section of this presentation is the introduction. For our background of study is about the 1MDB scandal, short for One Malaysia Development Berhad. It is a scheme involving bribery, money laundering and corruption in which the Malaysian sovereign wealth, mainly on our former Prime Minister, Tun Sri Datuk Najib Razak, 1MDB fund was routinely defrauded and its assets were diverted all over the world. It had a global impact, included players from the banking, political, and entertainment industries. According to the 1MDB scandal, the US Department of Justice called it the greatest kleptocracy case to date. So this is our background study. For our problem statement, we focus on the hypocrisy on some former national leaders using national assets and funds for personal reasons whilst in power. They put self-interest above the nation's need and their responsibilities. Our significance of study is to increase people's awareness in selecting the right person for becoming the nation's leader and avoid corruption from becoming a practice in the government. Corruption can be the cause of the downfall of a nation. A corrupted leader means a corrupted nation. As citizens, it is our duty to vote the right leaders for this country. We hope in the upcoming GE15, our country will get the right leader. For our research objectives, we analyzed the root causes of corruption that were conducted by former national leaders to find methods of preventing corruption in the government, and lastly, to study the impact of corruption towards the nation. So, based on these research objectives, we conducted our case study. This is a quote from the UK Prime Minister. He said that corruption is a cancer that eats away at a citizen's faith in democracy, diminishes the instinct of innovation and creativity.
Okay, for our literature review, we go through 3 articles for our research into our topic. Okay, for the first article, Noreha stated that the private sector may capture the legislative, executive, and judicial institution for its own objective. Corruption is not a recent issue in Malaysia. This is illustrated by a well-known Malay proverb that has been handed down through the age. The proverb harapkan pagar makan padi alludes to a particular breed of bird raised in the past by Malay rice farmer to guard the paddy field. Besides that, for the second article, Nur Shafika claims that since the country's independence, we have made significant advancement towards becoming a highly developed country. Significant advancement toward becoming a highly developed country. In the past, Malaysia was well known worldwide and regarded as Southeast Asia crown jewel. However, during the past 10 years, Malaysia's level of corruption has significantly escalated, which has had a bad effect on our lovely nation. Lastly, for the last article, Carol and Rosaima suggested using a qualitative research methodology to examine how money in politics affect corruption in Malaysia. We focus our attention on a limited set of politicians and corporate executive in order to better understand their viewpoint, views, and comprehension of research topic.
Okay, next is the research methodology. The research method used in conducting this study is through reference to journal articles published in relation to corruption by former national leader in Malaysia. This study will also be done quantitatively. The questionnaires were distributed online via Google Form to at least 30 respondents to obtain the youth's perception of the corruption by former national leader in Malaysia. The questionnaires was distributed to respondents through the WhatsApp communication platform. The questions in the Google form are divided into 3 parts, which are section A, that talks about the demographic, which has 3 questions, age, gender, and ethnicity. Next is the section B, which talks about the knowledge, that has 17 questions, which explains about the respondents' understanding about corruption. Lastly, section C, which talks about the opinion, which has 2 questions that explains about the point of view about corruption.
For our fourth part of our presentation, findings and data analysis. In section A, from our data, we found that the age of our respondents were ranged within 18 to 22 years old, and 81% were male and 18.2% of our respondents were female. We also concluded that the 93.9% were ethnicity were Malay, 3% were Indian, and 3% from German. In section B, we found that 50% from our respondents feels neutral that corruption brings nothing but disaster bad outcomes, such as drop in economy and diminishes the value of human life. Secondly, 85% of the majority respondents were agreed that the corruption practices by our former leader damaged the reputation of the government and create distrust towards the citizens. And lastly, 5% disagreed that corruption brings bad impact to our society and country.
According to respondents' opinion at section C, corruption can happen due to self-interest and dishonest. 80% of the respondents were agreed that corruption happened because of self-interest. They do not care about their people and just using the fund money on their own, which shows that their actions are self-interest. And then some of the respondents also said that the ministers are greedy and dishonest in ruling. This is shown in many corruption cases in our government. There are 4 main factors that cause our politicians to choose the corruption as their choice. 61% of the respondents were agreed that corruption happened because of self-interest. And next, 20% of the respondents were agreed because of greed, and 60% of the respondents were agreed that corruption happened because of selfish, and lastly, 50% because of money.
So the last part is conclusion. So firstly, the survey result provide some information about Malaysian perception about corruption of former national leaders. The results of the survey show how respondents feel about corruption and offer opinions and recommendations on the subject. The results also show that while the majority of respondents were aware of the corruption scandals involving past national leaders, which have been getting worse every day. The most vulnerable member of society are disproportionately affected by corruption. Widespread corruption hinders economic progress, discourages investments, and threatens the rule of law. So to prevent this issue from getting worse, Malaysia needs to put preventative measures in place by enforce the law more strictly, arrest as many corrupt politicians as possible, not tolerate any corrupt politician, and most importantly, make corrupt politicians pay for their acts. So protect activities, whistleblowers and journalists have while empowering the populace. And lastly, regulating political fundraising to prevent excessive wealth and political power. So that is all from us. Thank you.